Greetings, my loyal listeners and faithful fans. And if you're on YouTube and you're not a loyal listener or a faithful fan, why not? Please subscribe. Now, what are we doing today? Well, I am going to continue and hopefully finish that game company's legal information, opinions, and advice on how you're supposed to play in the game, how you're supposed to behave, that kind of thing. We have previously, or I have previously, read the end user license agreement and terms of service and the privacy policy. I'm going to skip the California Consumer Privacy Act because there's a massive table in it which would require me to sit down and write a fairly lengthy script so that it flows reasonably well. What we are going to therefore do is start with the community rules and restrictions. And of course, I will probably have some kind of comments to go along with this. And let's be about it. What are the community rules and restrictions? Please note this was last updated nearly 2 years ago. By joining our official communities, you agree to comply with the following. Nothing you share with the community, including but not limited to user-generated content or user comments, may contain content that infringes on the intellectual property rights, including copyright, trademark, and patent rights, proprietary rights, trade secrets, personality rights, contract rights or restrictions, or other right of any third party. To the extent that any third-party content is embodied in any content you share with the community, including but not limited to user-generated content and user comments, you will have acquired the necessary rights and licenses to reproduce the same. You will not harass other users. Harassment includes, but is not limited to, publicly disclosing personally identifiable information of another end user or member of the community, stalking, doxing, or otherwise infringing on the privacy of any member of the community, disparaging, defaming, name-calling, or engaging in any form of discrimination against any other member of the community, engaging in any act of sexual misconduct, including but not limited to sexual innuendo, sharing sexually explicit content, including but not limited to sexually explicit content in the user-generated content or user comments, or making offensive or inappropriate advances or comments to a member of the community, making false claims, tickets, reports about events or any third party, regardless of their standing within the community or that game company, using exploits, hacks, or third-party tools to obtain an unfair advantage against other members of the community in-game. You agree that the list of conduct identified as harassment above is not exhaustive. We reserve the right to determine what constitutes harassment in our sole and exclusive discretion. You will not engage in acts of revenge, disparagement, or retaliation against us for any feature contained in or modification made to our games that you dislike. Your sole remedy for that is to stop playing the game. You will not engage in solicitation or advertise other products or services to the community without our prior consent. Email is sufficient. You may not commercially distribute, sell, or otherwise commercially exploit user-generated content, including video streaming, without our prior consent. Email is sufficient. Now, the only thing that immediately occurs to me to comment about this is that it is essentially up to that game company to determine for themselves, without necessarily communicating it, what constitutes harassment, which is not a huge problem, and potentially infringing their standards. This is quite open-ended, because it could be said that making disparaging comments about that game company on that game company official forum could be said to violate community rules and restrictions. I can certainly see how that could be interpreted.